This meeting is being live streamed. So stop swearing, Joseph. Got it. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all keeping well in these very peculiar times. Undulating, oscillating, up and down, ebb and flow, and all that stuff. I'm just waiting for Jay to appear. I'm sure he'll be here very shortly. But he got in touch with me. Here he is. My goodness me, he's getting better all the time. Jay, old boy, I can't hear you. This could be a blessing in disguise. It says your iPhone is muted.
How's that?
That's absolutely marvelous. I don't know what happens there.
Wait there.
Just let me see now if this is coming through live, because
Mike, trying to get you up, Joe. Wait there.
There we are. Oh, here we go. Technology at its best. Let's see. There we are.
Can you hear me now, Joe?
I can hear you very clearly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my good man. How are you?
Yes, I'm plodding along, thanks. I wear this hat now because it looks like I've got some sort of sporting inclinations, you know, and all that sort of business. And there's all sorts of stuff going underneath my armor.
It looks good on you, mate. It looks good.
Good. So, yeah, I'll ask you the normal question. What do you want? Because you just got in touch to say, can we have a quick chat, which is what we do.
So basically, mate, there's been like over the last sort of 8 years, there's sort of been like a dilution of the actual education that's coming out of these fast track courses. Now, I was very lucky, Joe. We had a 3-year course where we were in every single day, Monday to Friday. We were standing on the shoulders of giants. And then after that, there's so much CPDs. But with these fast track courses, there's been like just a decline in the level of PT that are coming out. Now, as you know, because we did a post, we sort of talked about the fourth emergency service being the health professionals and the manual therapists. They're going to be the go-to because of the sort of way the NHS is struggling at the minute. And I just want to talk about people that they're passionate about the job. They really are. And they're going into these 8-week courses and they're coming out and they're getting disheartened and there's so much ego involved in this industry. You know, just some advice on where to go, what you need to knuckle down on, yada, yada, yada.
It's very difficult, Jay, and I agree with you in that the marketing and the push to get people on these courses to take their money and then kick them out with qualifications, you know, it's massive in the whole field, you know, even in not just sports and exercise, but also health industries as well, and counseling and all these sorts of things, you know, it's very difficult. Where I'm up to with people is that in the end, we have to make our own decisions, you know, that's why I've called this To Thine Own Self Be True, you know, because I think what I tended to do is at the beginning of my illness, and I'm not going to go over my illness now, but I got very ill, as you know, for a long time. And I was always reaching out to so-called experts and professionals, you know, and my honest to God view is that in order to get better, you've got to almost find out, first of all, who you are and who you are not, and then start to make decisions from within yourself. Now, any trainer, coach, or teacher, my view is that they need to put you back to yourself and who you essentially are. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean to say that we don't give advice, but in my view now, I actually hand information to people and say, go and practice that. So there's the first thing is, you've got to go and do this, not think about it. To thine own self be true, to me means stop fantasizing. Right, stop fantasizing and get real. That's why I call this channel Getting Real with Dr. Joe, you know, because you are passionate, and I know you are. You're highly motivated. You're highly skilled in your particular area. But I know, Jay, like me, if there's something that you don't know, you will either put somebody onto somebody who's good in that field, or you'll go and learn about it yourself and practice it before you get any information. Now, I'm still a member of the Federation of Holistic Therapists, you know, because I keep hold of that, because again, there's continuing professional development events that go on, you know, which is necessary. but also it gives me £6 million professional indemnity assurance as well. It's called medical indemnity. And I know that there are a lot of these courses, and this is where people are fooled. A lot of these courses will provide you with a certificate that's not accepted by the insurance industry, Jay. And so you can spend literally thousands of pounds being certified on a 6-week course and not be able to get the insurance that goes with it. So there's just a few things that have just coming out of my mouth. But can I just say this? More and more people are getting onto me because they know my field, right? And they're suffering from stress, anxiety, depression, and generally hopelessness, because the way the world is at the moment it's really tricky to navigate it. So if we can do something or say something here that will help people, to point them in the right direction, to help them to discern for themselves, and also to be able to navigate this crazy world that we're in, then I think that we're probably doing a good job, without
Absolutely.
swearing, mate, because I'm going to try like mad not to swear and try and be, because I find it difficult, because when I get going and I express myself, that's why they call me Dr. Effing Joe, but I'm going to try and be professional here. But from what I've said there, what solutions, mate, what solutions do you have to these problems of lack of professional and marketing sort of certificates and things like that?
Like you say, Joe, listen, there's a lot of people out there with mental health problems. And part of the mental health problem is to start looking after the body. If the body's functioning correctly, we can then move into starting to work on the mind. And the problem is that the people that you relate to are people in sort of my industry. The only event you've got to, the only sort of place you can go to is a gym or a therapist or a life coach. And a lot of these guys are really unqualified. Like I say, Joe, back in the day when I came to you, I'm talking like, 10 years ago now, mate. So, we had that 3-year, I think we did sports therapy, we done manual therapy, we done personal training. Every single day we were there, Monday to Friday, all day. And it was brutal. It was brutal. There was 1 or 2 courses that had 9 to 12 weeks who said they're the pinnacle of fitness. And the turnover of staff is so great now. Like you say, there's just a lack of professionalism, or not knowing the knowledge, being able to apply the knowledge in the real world. And again, we had the likes of you, Joe, we had, I think Nikki was doing the nutrition. We had Dave McCarthy, absolute guru with manual therapy. We had Jill Elliott, who's the exercise specialist. Again, absolute workhead, pinning it down into your brain so you had it. And then you've got the CPDs. And I'm not saying that the fast track courses aren't the way to go. If you have a genuine passion, and I'm not talking that you've trained in a gym or you've gone to therapy yourself and you think, oh, do you know what? I want to do that now. I'm talking if you have a genuine passion and at the moment you can't get into university, or there's no 3-year college courses, and you have to take that 6 to 12-week course, then so be it. But outside of that, you need to knuckle down into your own education. You need to be reading up and studying any CPD course. I mean, you've got the Neurological Expo, Rehab Expo, you've got the Sports Therapy Expo. I do the International Holistic Therapists, their website where I get all my insurance from, all my qualifications are pushed in there. So if you genuinely have a passion and you can only touch on those sort of 12-week courses, you've got to knuckle down, guys. You've really got to sort of study, get stuck in, reach out to as many courses as you can. One of the other things is it's being able to apply that in real time. So I see a lot of guys that are coming out that are highly educated from these 12-week courses. They've had many years in training, or they've gone through counseling themselves and they've done their own small courses, but they just don't know how to apply it in real time. So I think a lot of guys rely too much on going to courses, which they haven't got what I had back in the day. They didn't have that 3 years intense study with guys like yourself. If you have got that 12 weeks, it's important that you devote, and I'm not saying this in an entrepreneurish or a highly energetic way. You need to devote you are working with people's lives. It's not just the body. You are working with vulnerable clientele, vulnerable patients, people that could be with certain injuries, certain pathologies. You need to completely devote yourself to what you're doing. And that means if you're going home and you're unsure, You know, you're reading up till 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're reaching out. You know, if you see that there's a demographic for mental health spiraling out of control, then it's important that you go, if I'm going to work with these clientele, I'm going to go and find 5 courses now online that I'm going to go to in the next 6 months to elevate my education. If you genuinely want to work with these people, you've got to devote yourself to it. And the problem is, Joe, is that you're getting a lot of people that are not faking it, but they're highly unqualified. And when you're working with vulnerable clients, you can say the wrong thing, you can do the wrong thing, you know, you can give out some poor science or some poor treatment or therapy. And what you're not understanding is that's not a client for you no more, but that could ruin that person's life. It could set them off track. It's not just about being in the gym, man. It's not just about doing weight. You're playing with people's bodies, which affects their minds. It's the only place we have at the moment, especially through the crisis we're going through with, you know, the cost of going out and all that crap. This is the only place a lot of people have got to come. If they, you know, they can go out running and all that, but if they haven't got the confidence, this is the only place they have to come. And it's important that if you do want to hit, you know, if you do want to get into this industry, not just this industry, Joe, whether it's, you know, sports clinician, sports therapist, whatever, you know, because I'm highly, you know, motivated by the injury side of things. It's important that you've got to, it's got to be devotion. There's got to be a passion to want to do it.
I agree. But there's got to be a realistic outlook at this. Is why is the world like this? Why has it become like this? And it's really because the push, the marketing has all been about, and this is the way the world is now, that money drives lots of things. So egomania and money drives things, you know. And I think when we say holistic, Jay, we've got to understand that you talk about mental health, and I've said this to you before, is what's the difference then between mental health and psychological well-being? And this is probably going to be the most important thing, I feel, at least. If you don't know how to handle your emotional state, and that's where your emotionally sensitive people come in, right? If you handle your emotional state by repressing and suppressing your real self and your real feelings, right, then you're on the hide into nothing, mate. You know, you're just fooling yourself, you know. And this was the basis of my thing, is I was duped all my life to basically follow the instructions from experts, when in the end, I think an expert's job is, as I've said before, is to point you back to the strengths in the individual themselves, you know. And I have this approach, as you know, called the I am approach. And what that stands for is internal asset management. And I'll just explain what that means. Assets are the things that you're naturally skilled at and naturally capable with. So if we work with what a person's naturally good at first, that builds their confidence. And then over time, then, as they feel more confidence and their self-esteem builds, then we can work on the things that aren't working so well. But to start off straight away on the deficits is wrong in my behavior. And I know that you're like me, you're very intuitive and you can sort of sense where people are up to. But some people, right, need nurturing. There's two things that happen. There's either fear blocks people or pride. And pride says, I don't need to listen to this person because I already know. Well, when you're working with a person like that, you've got to try and discover a chink in their armor, right? Yeah. Okay, you know, and I know that you're good at that, right? But when you're working with a sensitive person, you've got to encourage them, right? But not in a, this is my view, is not on a rah, yes, you can, force it and get stuck in. I think that's probably obstructive, you know, but I think that you've almost got to encourage them to find out what they're good at and allow them to grow themselves, you know. So holistic to me means understanding that there's physical, there's emotional, there's mental, but there's also a spiritual component. Now, when I say spirituality, I don't mean religion. You know, I don't mean religion at all. Spirituality means working with their core selves, who they essentially are at heart, and encouraging that part of them to come out. I think that that's something that needs to be brought in to the whole arena of physical exercise, nutrition, and everything people talk about. And they say this word holistic as though it's understood. Jay, I work, as you know, in medicine most of the time, and they say holistic. We need a holistic approach. And I say to them, that's a good idea there. Can you just explain to me so it's clear what you mean by holistic? Oh, well, it means like includes everything. And I said, well, can you give me those components of what everything is? And then they start arguing with me then, mate, as though I'm being obstructive and argumentative, You see, and another thing is as well is I think a lot of people get let through on these qualifications because the instructors haven't got enough courage to say, no, you need more work on that. Now, I've become ruthless over time because I used to be like soft-hearted and, oh, yeah, that's close enough. But I see the error of my ways now. And if something doesn't look right to me or smells fishy, I have to say, hang on a second, something's not right here, and then work my way through that. Over to you, mate. And you look very serious today, which is very unusual for you. But,
it's a serious subject, it is, Joe, for me. It really is. I mean, just going off what you said then, I mean, after the 3 years with you guys, which was very, very intense, I remember coming to you, Joe, 5 years later. And I said, Joe, I want to be a doctor. I want a PhD. And you said, come down to the college, come and see me. And you took me up to the office and you said, why? And I didn't know. I didn't have an answer for you. And you said, no, you need to carry on going the direction you're going, and you'll find your path. One more thing about the exercises, especially with those of you that are going to go into, even if you're just an FI, just a fitness instructor, if you're just going to go into PT, these short sort of week courses, they're sold on the promise that you're going to earn £30 an hour, £50 an hour. And the whole subject is based around what you're going to earn. And I'm telling you now, it's a ball ache, right? This job is an absolute ball ache. This will be the death of me. The amount of energy you've got to put into people. My health is falling apart. I can count on my fingers and toes right now how many hours I've slept from last week, right? And it's not about the money. What you've got to understand is a lot of people that are walking through the doors of a gym or they're getting outside is they don't have much life skill in terms of they've left school, they've got a basic job, they've bought a home, and they haven't got enough life skill to understand the emotions that are coming in and the stress that's applied in the gym, and how you structure programs and how you relate to this, this client or this person. I don't want to say client, I'm going to say person, this person, what they're essentially getting in the first, Joe, I would say 3 months, they're getting life skills, and what they're taking from the gym, they're then going to apply in their life. And it's not all about the push. Like Joe says, you've got to be sort of sensitive and sort of bring them up and find the negatives, but work on the positives. But things like pushing clients as hard as you can, because that's what you're told in this 6-week course. I understand that if a client leaves a rep, let's say, and I know they can get them that rep, how much of their life are they giving up on if they can't push for that rep? I get that. But, but at the same time, they're walking into an environment they're not comfortable with. And it's important that you're putting in that psychological factor to get their confidence up. Then their body isn't in tune with their mind, and it's important that you build on the proprioception and their neuro awareness. Then you've got to work on, if a lot of people are coming in and the trainers are pushing them, they start to become angry and vexed. Oh, like this, and that's not what it's about. It's finding that holistic point, which is a whole, as Joe says. But if you haven't got the education, guys, if you're not making the effort, again, there isn't much out there like it was for me, where it was a 3-year course and it was really intense and he didn't let you stop. And Joe, like you say, you wouldn't let me get away with anything. I mean, me and you fell out sometimes because I hadn't done certain things your way. But if you're not willing to put in the effort to learn, it doesn't have to be a course. You can go to these CPDs. You can read and watch. There's tutorials everywhere if that's what you've got to go to. If you don't put in the effort for the education, you are not going to be able to help these people on a holistic level. It's not just about lifting a weight. You won't understand how to help these people, these vulnerable people, because that's what they are, get better in a holistic environment. Back to you, Joe.
No, I agree, mate. And the whole point of we having these talks is how can we point people in the right direction for them? Because, you know, there's two phrases I'm going to use here now, right? There's wholehearted and there's half-hearted. And if you're half-hearted about something, right, that's probably not going to be successful, you know.
Exactly.
And people talk about being passionate, you know, and they talk about being passionate, but they're angry with it. You see what I mean? There's no point in being angry with it. You can take all that compressed energy and allow it to be transformed into passion, which will take you forward in a positive way. So this is, as somebody said on here now, Shaz, you know, it's really all about understanding what's going on below the surface, right? Because 4/5 of information is processed emotionally, and we've got no idea that this is going on. How do you know that you're emotionally obstructed? Because you feel shit. Oh, excuse my French, I'm trying not to swear. Because you feel disturbed. And my whole thing now is teaching people, are you feeling disturbed? Right. Yes, I am. Then let's get down to the root cause of that disturbance. And Jay, in complementary therapies, disturbance, pain, all that sort of thing is an obstruction to the free flow of vitality. And you know yourself, mate, that when you're feeling vital, everything's fine. People can say,
Yeah.
hey, big nose, look at the state of you. And you go, I know, yeah, you know, and you can brush everything off. But look, you know, Joe, when you Jay, when you go down Birkenhead now or go to Liverpool, look around. Everybody's got their noses to the ground. There's a whole feeling of depression knocking about, you know, and occasionally you'll see somebody with their head up telling a little joke, right, with bright eyes. They're the people to get hold of, you know. So I'm saying to the people on here now who are listening to this is, if you want to just feel, look at the person. Have they got vitality? Have they got energy that's just flowing from them? Maybe lock onto what they're saying and consider following them rather than somebody who's got a whole head of big words. And don't get me wrong, I used to be that person because I used to say, you know, all these big words. But, you know, can you practice what you preach? And I know that you can, mate, and that's why you're passionate about getting it across. I'm passionate about getting this across as well. But here's one thing I've learned is, right, faith without works is dead. That sounds a bit religious, but what it means is you can have all the faith in the world, but if you don't actually do something to ground it, nothing ever changes, mate. You know,
Yeah.
and it's all very well. I heard a phrase once and it says, above all, we must reject fantasizing, right? And that says above all, meaning pretty important that. Well, what does it mean? It means stop fantasizing, get your ideas, try them out, see if they work. If they're positive and the quality of your life improves, do more of it. And if it doesn't, choose something else. And don't knock yourself for failing, because if you don't fail, you'll never win in the end. You know, go on, mate. This has turned into like a sermon now. I feel strongly about this. Emotional health is so important. It's something that we get talked out of, not only by ourselves, but also by a lot of health and medical practitioners. You know, they can almost use it. I tell you what we'll do is we'll reframe what you've just said there and we'll say it in a different way. Jay, it doesn't wash. Go on, mate.
And the thing is, Joe, is there's a lot of guys out there that have been in the industry for quite a while, whether it's holistic, manual therapy, physio, whatever you're doing, trainers. And a lot of these guys aren't really doing good. And it's not because they're not educated, it's because they're not happy in themselves. And I know a lot of people that are going to therapy and they're taking their shit to the therapist, and their therapist has got more shit going on in their life than fucking you have, you know? And then you're sorry, my man. And then you're sitting there going, why do I feel bad coming out of this session? You know, you're going into trainers that are there to help you. And they've been in the industry a long time. And you're walking away thinking, you know, I feel crap. Okay, because even though a lot of guys are educated, there's some great coaches out there, they are just not happy with themselves. They're just not happy with what they're doing. Like Joe says, you've got to find that vitality in people. If you're going to work with someone and you see their energy and it's positive, lean into them, you know, lean into that, because something's working for them, you know. And for those of you guys, and there's a lot of guys out there, Joe, and we've seen this over the years, there's a lot of guys out there that are meant for this calling. They are meant to help other people, whether it's my industry, whether it's therapy, manual therapy, sports medicine, whether it's just life skills. They are meant to be, but they feel a fool for trying to go into an industry they don't think they're going to be in. You know, they're not going to be able to learn. And you'd be more foolish not to try. So if
Okay.
you've got a genuine calling, if something within you is saying, right, I want to help people, I don't know what it is, go find the course. You will find your way. But if you feel a fool for trying, you'd be more foolish not to go and try something, because it's people like you that are actually going to make the difference.
I agree. And that's called, Jay, whether you like it or not, spirituality. Because what is that thing? What is that thing? Because vocation, it means literally to be called. A vocation means from the voice, you get this calling and you can't understand, but you've always been in your mind enthusiastic about a certain area. If you don't follow that pathway, right, you'll never be happy. That's my view. And because that's what happened to me. I was on a pathway that didn't correspond with what I really liked, because I got put into a managerial job because of, and all that took me away from what I really loved, which was medical research, health, and all that sort of thing. Now I'm semi-retired now. I'm doing what I please, right? And I look back and I think so many wasted years. And like I said to you, is if the most important thing that comes out of this is if you've got a feeling that's really driving you forward, no matter what you do, cut out everything else that's not really important to you. Just forget all the distractions, right? If you've got a dancer that's trying to come up and dancing you, that's what it's calling you for. If you've got something to do with medicine, but you can't get the qualifications, look at health, look at nutrition, look at medicine, but apply them to yourself and see if it works. And then you can walk the walk and talk the talk at the same time. And that's what people pick up, Jay. They pick up, is this fella, right? Does he know what he's talking about? Right. Now, I know because I used to blag me way when I was teaching you. I didn't have a clue about most of it. I was just learning it in my head. Sometimes the answer would come. I was chalking it. I mean, that's how long ago it was. We had the chalkboard, but I'd be chalking something thinking, I hope they don't ask me any hard questions, But no, that's true, mate. And I'm just being honest, because I was like a blag merchant. And for many years of my life, I was ducking and diving and dodging and weaving and just blagging all the time, and I can see when people, when I hit them with the correct answer, which was by luck most of the time, they sort of went, oh, okay, thanks very much. And I think, Christ, got away with that. But you know what, mate? If I don't know something now, I say, I don't know. Maybe Jay does. Maybe somebody else does, So that's why I've called this To Thine Own Self Be True, because eventually the truth does set you free, but you've got to know in yourself where you're being truthful and where you're being dishonest. And guess what, mate? If you're being dishonest, as you get more sensitive, you feel the pain of it. So you can't in the end, go on. I mean, I don't know. We've gone in all sorts of different directions here, but the point about it is, for Christ's sake, for God's sake, for anybody else's sake, for Buddha's sake, for anybody else's sake, sit down with yourself. Try and recall, before you were clobbered by this society, try and recall what you used to love doing as a child. What did you get lost in? Because that will give you a clue as to where you should be going. There's a bit of, that's just a suggestion.
I mean, one thing I've got to point out as well, I mean, again, I was extremely lucky to have the team that was in place when you were teaching, Joe, when we were doing that 3-year course. And for 3 years is a long time, guys. 3 years is there was times when I hated it, And if you're going into a course, if you find your calling, if you find a course that you want to do, and you go in and listen, I'm telling you now, if you go into a course, it could be it could be what I've done, sports therapist, personal trainer, all this stuff, and you think, yeah, that's what I want to do. It's 3 years. If you are not vibing with the lecturers, if you are not vibing with the mentors, if they haven't got the passion, I'm telling you now, that rubs off on you when you go on. I mean, Joe, when you were doing, so when you got into depth about the medicine and fuck me, mate, sorry for swearing, but Jesus Christ, made me horny, Joe, made me horny. When Dave McCarthy was breaking down anatomically that body, and we were doing the advanced anatomy and physiology, and watching his hands work, I was like, I need to take this man home. Jesus Christ, just the way it was an art, the passion. I mean, Nick she wouldn't let you get away with anything in nutrition, and it would bore you to death.
It was Jenny, wasn't it? Jenny.
Sorry, Jenny. Yeah. She'll bore you to death sometimes, some of this stuff, but she'd be so brutal in how you had to get it and break it down. But she would always break it down in a way that you go, Jill Elliott, man. I mean, she'd be like, get up now, let's go. We're going to do some deadlifts, boom. And this is how you break it down. And she would just go into every detail. And that passion is what's that energy is what you take away with you. So if you're going in, you're learning, anatomy and advanced anatomy, physiology, whatever it may be, even psychology. If you're learning that and it's just a drag, man, you're not feeling the passion. I'm telling you, I don't care how educated you are when you come out of a 3-year degree or you've done any type of course, you will take that energy into your work. And that's a big problem that I see now. Some of these guys aren't in tune. They're getting into this industry later on in life. They've got the foundation to take the knowledge they get and apply it in real time and be very, very good at it. But the lecturers are just teaching them in such a monotonous, boring way that when they get there, they're just drained, man. They just haven't got the passion for it. So it's important that whatever route you go and take in this industry, and this industry, it's already boomed, Joe. Yeah. But people are suffering, man. Pathologies are through the roof. Musculoskeletal issues through the roof. Neurological through the roof. Mental health is spiraling out of control. I can't walk 10 feet down that corridor now without bumping into someone who's on some type of antidepressant, some type of antipsychotic, who's just suffering in life, and it's spiraling. And it's important that what you're being taught is being taught with you with energy and passion, because I'm telling you, this job is an absolute ball. Like, I make it look glitz and glam, right? I make it look passionate and energy because I've got the passion for it. But honest to God, it's hard work. It really is hard work. Your whole life is poured into it. So you need to make sure that what you're taking from where you're learning is positive. It's passionate. You're able to apply it and it works for you, because if it doesn't work for you, it ain't working for no one else.
That's true, mate. I mean, and I just want to say something about medicine. I work, as you know, mostly in medicine and in health and stuff. I've got no problem about medicine whatever, not at all. If medicine is prescribed for the right condition at the right time in the right amount, right, I've got no problem with it at all. And I think that we all need to, rather than being in opposing camps, I've said this to you many times, we need to all work together and give the patient, client, person what they need, whether it be short-term or long-term, to help them to improve the quality of their life, not necessarily the quantity of years, right? Because people are plodding along. I see it clearly. There's people just plodding along with no joy, hoping to reach 90 years of age as if that's some sort of badge of honor, right?
Yeah.
If they're all miserable every single day, what's the point, mate? You might as well have one day well lived and then snuff it at the end of it, rather than just plodding along with no joy whatsoever. So my thing is, as you know, the joy of living is my theme, right? But once again, to thine own self be true. If anybody's listening to this and they're not happy or whatever, it's probably because, and this is just my way of looking at it, it's probably because they're not aligned with their true essential calling or vocation. So sit down, almost ask your intuition, who am I and what do I really enjoy in life? Right, and make sure that it's healthy and it doesn't get you in trouble, because you can pretend to enjoy something that's really not unhealthy, but that'll catch you out in the end. So all I'm saying is, from this little chat we're having, and I love talking to you, also I'd like to say to you is, listen, mate, right, again, it's about balance. It's about balance. And you have a thing like me, is that we drive ourselves on and we exhaust ourselves then. So really, again, I have to look at that all the time. I have to keep checking in and doing a little inventory and saying, how's me energy levels? Now, if I've got open flowing vitality, then I just keep going then. But if I start to wane and get exhausted and tired and continue to push myself on through that, I'm going to get adrenal fatigue and I'm going to start to get sick again. So I have to be very, very, especially with what happened to me last year, right?
Yeah.
I have to be careful because I was still pushing myself like an old idiot, 67 years of age, right? Great North Run, Cross Mersey Swim, London Marathon, all within 3 weeks, right? No wonder I got ill, mate. You know what I mean? So again, Jay, I only ever feel like I'm scratching the surface of what's absolutely available here. And I know that mindfulness is the way forward, because all mindfulness it's restoring self-awareness and body awareness and honesty with yourself, mate. Over to you, and we'll have to finish shortly because I've got to go and pick my good lady up.
I mean, the only other thing I can really sort of help with anyone that really wants to get into this industry is it's sort of picking the venue as well, which is with me. I was working, like Joe says, I'm going to die from this job. I'll die from this job will kill me. And you've got there's a lot of venues where you're going to work that you just won't resonate with, and you may only been going in there for 5 to 6 hours a day, but I'm telling you, if you're in a venue where you're not vibing with the people and they're not on your level and they're not where you want to be, and even the demographic of people in that area, it isn't the type of vibe you want, it's okay to go to another gym. I've had 23 gyms before I got to this position, and I was the weight I put on. If you look at any of my videos and blogs for the last 2 years, we'll tell you like 5 years, I've been here for a while now, my face was massive, Joe. And I was so unhappy with the types of trainer, the types of vibe, the management, the clientele. That was exhausting me more than the job. That was really, really killing. And it's important that once you do find that calling and you really do want to go out and really help people, and you're centered, man, you found your calling and you found the way you want to teach that, whether it be, a high energy vibe, middle energy, whether you want to go down the medical route, the clinical view. I'm very clinical, so I love the science and breaking the body down. But if you're in the wrong place and you stay in that wrong place, you will become a poor teacher. You will want to do good. You'll want to help people, and you're going to do it in totally the wrong way because you are in the wrong place. I'll say this: you are a mirror, right? It doesn't matter how good you are, how passionate, how enlightened you are, and elevated, and how you see the world. You could be the guru of gurus, okay? You could be the master of anatomy and physiology. But if you are in the wrong place, surrounded by really negative people, as much as you won't like to admit it, you will mirror their actions. And that is how you will teach as a person. So once you've got that education, once you've got that knowledge and you can apply it, find a place that feels good for you. Find a place where the people around you are vibing with you and clientele that you can relate to and help.
See that? You've become more spiritual in a half an hour. All the words that you use are about vitality, vibrations, energy, frequency, everything. Right? You can tell when somebody's truthful and honest because it just pours out of their heart. That's all we need to feel for. Now, we're not suggesting, by the way, to everybody listening, that people, if they're in a job that they hate, it's to be cautious, but maybe consider looking at different directions, right? And don't be telling everybody, it's okay, I hate this job, so I'm looking for you have to be cautious and sensible about it. But the point about it is, from my own experience, I was in a position where I was surrounded by negativity, negative people, very academic, right? A lot of the academics I work with are very negative because they've got a whole head full of knowledge, but they've got no idea on how to live. And Jay, that's who I was. I was a knowledgeable idiot, but about myself, I did not have a clue. And to a large degree, I still haven't, because every day I seem to discover a new aspect of myself, think, oh, I never thought about that before. And they're the little signs, mate, when something pops up and goes, oh, look at that, that's interesting. So, I think that more and more, and I'll say again, mindfulness, right? It's not about meditation. It's about sitting with yourself, turning your eyes from looking outwards for the answer to turning them inwards to you. You called it your essential core calling. Ask yourself, tap your on your heart and say, hello, hello. Will the real so-and-so pop up and give us a clue? And that's it. So just to curtail this then, really, we'll have more of these where we maybe put some more clinical, medical, anatomical stuff in over time. I'm not making any promises because I'm supposed to be semi-retired. I've never been more busy. There's all sorts of other stuff. People are ill around me and stuff like that. So I'm all over the place at the moment. However, I still feel open and flowing. But something I've got to keep an eye on is that I don't overdo it, because I still have that tendency to drive myself on and become ill, So, I'm only learning myself, mate. I love the bones of you. I've never seen you looking more serious, because I can tell now that you're passionate, but you're really serious, because it's playing on your mind, mate. You know what I mean?
Joe, I owe this career to you and your team. Mate. Honestly, I love you to bits. We've done a lot together. We've done a lot over the years. But it's heartbreaking to see people being hurt through, just poor, not just the education, just poor energy being poured into those that are helping other people, and those that really want to help are feeling the fool, and they don't want to make a fool of themselves. And they're the guys that, if you're listening, you need to get out there. If you've got that calling, like Joe said, if that's what you want to do, doesn't matter what industry you lie in. If you've got a passion for helping other people and it's in your soul, that's why you're on this universe. You can go out and do it.
That's why I would say if you've got a feeling, but you're worried about what other people will think I'd say get over yourself, because it doesn't matter. It's what you think about yourself that becomes important, right? And if you've got this thing and you take a few steps in the right direction, I swear to you, it's almost like the universe gets behind you and starts pushing you in the direction of what you're really good at. Let me just say one more thing. Right. Yeah, we will have more of these, but I'm not making any promises I can't keep up. It'll just happen when it happens, really, But for people listening, where can they get in touch? I don't want anybody to get in touch with me. I'm not being horrible. I've got too much on at the moment. But where can they get in touch with you, or how will you put your contact details in the comments on this one?
Yeah, I will do. And I've got some guys that I'm pretty close to that teach courses, really good energy guys. So if anyone really wants to get into this industry, the mental health side of things, these whole first aid mental health courses, if you really want to get into helping people with mental health, you got to take a serious course. So again, I've got a couple of contacts that we can list in the comments as well. So feel free to either DM me, I'll put my details below, and I'll put you in touch with my guys as well.
Okay, and the other thing, you can share this out. I'll put this up on YouTube as well and send you the link. So if you want to share it out, by all means do so.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just to finish it off, because I always have to have the last word, right? Just to say, I honestly believe that I spent too much time looking outside of myself when the answer was always in here. Now, I know that sounds a bit weird, but what it is you have within you the potential, the skills and the abilities to basically improve your own life. So just listen to people. There's a phrase that says, stick with the winners. If you're surrounded by negative people, right, try and spend less time with them, because they do, especially when you're open and sensitive, they do drain you. It's almost like psychic vampirism, but you've got to sort of be a bit more sensitive to say, I don't need to be around this. So one technique, and by the way, I'm working with Sifu Boggy, who teaches Qigong, Tai Chi, Reiki, all these things. So we'll be putting some stuff up as well together, But here's one thing, Jay. This is what I learned it's a simple Qigong technique, and it says, hang on a moment. No, I can't do that at the moment. I'm awfully sorry, because I'm a bit de-energized and I need to look after my health and well-being. But thank you very much for asking me. Right. And if they don't like that, you can turn it around. There's another technique. I might have to take that bit out, otherwise I'll be deprofessionalized. Jay, I love you, mate.
Honestly. Thanks for the time, Joe.
See you soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.